I sneak into an Amish community and discovered their best-kept secret on how to preserve pears. I never thought that a few simple pears would take me to a world hidden in time. But there I was, in Douglas County, Illinois, surrounded by wooden carts and suspicious glances. I had been told that the Amish had a secret for preserving pears for months without refrigeration. Myth or reality? There was only one way to find out. My arrival to the Amish community, the journey there was an experience in itself. As I pulled away from the highway, the asphalt turned to dirt, and time literally went back a century. There were no power lines, no cell phone antennas, just immaculate farmhouses and horse-drawn carriages. Upon arrival, I was greeted by an old man with a white beard that looked like something out of a story. He didn't talk much, but his look said, "I know you're not from here, but let's see how far you go." Mary, his wife, was more expressive, in her blue dress and white cap. She took me to her kitchen, which smelled of burnt wood and spices. It was there that I understood that the Amish don't just cook, they master food preservation as an ancient art. Golden afternoon light streams in through the kitchen windows, illuminating a space filled with antique utensils and a large gleaming glass jar on the center table. Mary, wearing a white apron stained with small touches of honey, moves deftly between the ingredients. Fruit selection and preparation. Mary carefully picks ripe pears from the basket, choosing those that, at first glance, promise a sweet and aromatic flavor. Using a sharp knife with a well-balanced blade, Mary cuts the pears into even slices. Each slice is placed on a wooden cutting board, as she comments. The symmetry in the cut ensures even cooking of the syrup. Making the syrup into a large copper pot, Mary pours fresh spring water and adds honey from the local beehive. With measured movements, she stirs the mixture over medium heat. The kitchen is filled with a warm and enveloping aroma as the honey slowly dissolves in the water, starting a gentle boil. Mary, with a wooden spoon in hand, adjusts the temperature and monitors the boil, making sure the syrup takes on that perfect amber shade. Adding the pears and packaging, carefully, Mary dips each pear slice into the hot syrup. The camera zooms in on his hands as he dips the slices, making sure they are all well coated. Once covered, transfer the pears and syrup to large glass jars, filling them almost to the top. With a clean cloth, she wipes the edges of the jars and seals each one tightly, murmuring, "This will keep them fresh and full of life for months." Storage. Mary places the jars in a dark pantry, away from direct sunlight. With a satisfied smile, he comments to his assistant. The secret is in the care. Natural honey, controlled heat, and patience. Fun fact, Mary emphasizes that refined sugar is never used in her recipe, because God did not create refined sugar for her. Honey is the true nectar of nature. Method 2. Sun drying, the most primitive but effective. The sun shines brightly on a large wooden patio, where several trays are carefully arranged. With a straw cap and an enthusiastic smile, guides the process outdoors. Cutting and preparation kneels next to a rustic work table and picks up a fresh pear. With a handmade knife, he cuts it into extremely thin slices, explaining, "The thinner they are, the faster and more uniform they will dry under the sun." Each sheet is placed precisely on the wooden tray, distributing them so that they do not touch each other. Tray arrangement and protection. With the help of a young apprentice, spreads each tray on the patio, making sure the sheets are exposed to direct sun. Then carefully place a fine mesh screen over the pears to prevent insects or dust particles from entering. Dust ruins the drying process. The drying process. Over several days, under the incessant sun and occasional breeze, the pears transform. returns periodically to inspect the condition of the fruits, measuring the textura and checking their crunchiness. With each review, he proudly comments, "Look how the sun and the wind concentrate the essence of the pear, giving it a natural caramelized touch." Final packaging. Once dry and crisp, the pears are picked and placed in glass jars. Inside each jar, 1 or 2 bay leaves are added, which act as moisture absorbers and give a subtle herbal aroma. Upon sealing the jar, concludes, "This way, we guarantee that the flavor remains intact and the texture is perfect to enjoy." After tasting one of these pears, one of those present exclaimed in amazement that it tasted like natural caramel, highlighting the unmatched power of the sun and preservation. Method 3. Fermentation, the rarest, but powerful. The scene moves to a cool, slightly damp basement filled with aged wooden barrels. Mary, with an air of mystery and determination, opens one of the barrels, inviting me to come closer.
But before we continue with the video, don't forget that if you want to keep expanding your knowledge about food preservation and storage, you can click on the pinned comment after watching this video. There, you'll find a playlist with all the videos in the course. Let's continue.
Preparation of the barrel and mixture. Mary explains that for this method, a previously cleaned and disinfected wooden barrel is used. With safe hands, place whole pears in the bottom of the barrel. They are not cut, since the fermentation is carried out with the whole fruit to enhance its flavor. Next, mix fresh water and sea salt in a large container, 2 ingredients that enhance the fermentation action. The proportion is carefully measured, Mary comments. A tablespoon of salt for every liter of water, no more and no less, to balance the process. Beginning of the fermentation process, the salt mixture is poured over the pears, submerging them completely. The surface of the liquid begins to bubble gently, a sign that fermentation has begun. Mary closes the barrel tightly and places it in a cool corner of the cellar, away from direct light so that fermentation occurs steadily. In a slow and enigmatic voice, he adds, "This process can take weeks, but time is the secret to developing that acidic and sweet flavor at the same time." Supervision and patience. Every few days, Mary opens the barrel to make small mixtures with a wooden spoon, checking the evolution of aroma and texture. Fermentation not only preserves the fruit, but, in a way, strengthens the soul and the stomach, he says while watching the bubbles dancing in the liquid. Completion and storage. After the necessary weeks, Mary closes the barrel again and carefully transfers the fermented pears to glass containers for later consumption. The atmosphere in the basement is filled with a mixture of intense and curious smells, evoking the magical transformation of the fruit. Crazy fact: this method, although unusual, allows pears to be preserved for years, giving them a unique character deeply rooted in ancestral tradition. Method 4. Preservation and beeswax, the most surprising. In a bright workshop with stone walls, Mary prepares to perform a technique that seems straight out of an old alchemy manual. Whole pears and a large block of beeswax are displayed on a work table. Wax preparation. Carefully, Mary cuts the beeswax into small pieces and places them in a metal pot. On a small stove, melt the wax over low heat. The wax slowly transforms into a shiny, golden liquid, giving off a sweet and natural aroma. With a kitchen thermometer in hand, she ensures that the temperature does not exceed the critical point, so that the wax does not lose its healing properties. Pear dip. While the wax is still hot, Mary takes a whole pear, already perfectly selected for its ripeness and firmness. Using slow, ceremonious movements, dip the pear into the wax liquid, making sure it is completely coated. The camera focuses on the shine that the fruit acquires as the wax surrounds it. Once submerged, extract it with wooden tongs and places it on a metal rack, allowing the excess wax to drain. Cooling and sealing. The pear, still shiny and protected by the wax, is left to cool in a cool, dry environment. Mary checks each piece, making sure the layer of wax has hardened into a perfect seal. In an excited voice, he comments, "This wax not only protects the pear, but also allows it to retain its juiciness, even after a year." Storage. Finally, the coated pears are stored in wooden boxes lined with linen fabric, in a cool, dark place where the wax seal keeps them intact. Mary concludes, "It's amazing how a simple wax bath can preserve the soul of the fruit, keeping it ready to delight anyone who tastes it." Amazing result. Some of these pears, protected by wax, have been more than a year old and are still juicy, offering an unaltered flavor and a unique experience. My farewell and my big mistake. Before I left, gave me a jar of pears in syrup as a gift. But I made the mistake of asking, "And you haven't thought about selling these methods to the world?" There was silence. Mary looked at me disapprovingly. Elias sighed, and another Amish in the corner muttered something in German. I understood that here it wasn't about money or fame. It was about preserving a legacy. I came away with a lesson. Sometimes, the best-kept secrets are not the most complicated, but the simplest.